We want to keep our energy levels high and perform well in the areas of life that are important to us. It's how we show up, and our energy there as well. It's not just show up and look half dead and, feel like crap, right? We want to improve our quality of life, be healthier, be more productive, have better relationships, have better experiences, and remember them too. Why else should we do this at all, after all? Welcome to the Path to Passive podcast, where we talk about building wealth and empowering lifestyle through commercial real estate investing for tech professionals. I always wish that other tech professionals reaching financial freedom had documented their journey along the way, so I'm doing it for the rest of us. Join us as we explore stories, many failures, and lessons learned along the way. I hope you enjoy and subscribe. How do you define what wealth is? How about freedom? While these terms have their own dictionary definition, I think you might have your own definition of what these terms mean too. Wealth might be measured by the value of all the assets, and worth owned by a person, community, company, or a country, as an example. This is what I took from Investopedia anyway. Some might consider freedom to be the freedom of the power or right to act, speak, and change as one wants without hindrance or restraint, as I got from Wikipedia. Others might consider freedom to be able to do what they want with who they want whenever they want to. Regardless of your exact definition, I think the topic of wealth, you would consider that physical health and time are also worth being measured. Again, in the context of wealth. So physical health and time. So let's talk about it. In today's episode, I'm going to be covering signs of stress, right? Signs of burnout, signs of fatigue. And it's all in context of physical health and time here. I'm going to be introducing you to focus days, buffer days, and days off. I'll tell you a little bit about how I've been using these different types of days to improve my own results and quality of life, and propose to you a game plan, or at least some ideas on what you can do to get started with these if it's something that you want to try out and you're interested in doing too. So, welcome to another episode of Path to Passive. This is real estate investing for tech professionals, the guide for tech professionals that want to invest in real estate, get maximum leverage on their capital to earn income, save on taxes, and build generational wealth. And just a note on that, we're talking about maximum leverage, and maximum leverage is definitely with the resources that you have, not just with capital, but overall on energy too. So, I'm Stephen Rita. Welcome to this episode, and let's get into today's show, which is on free days, buffer days, and focus days. So let's dive in. Today, it's worth noting that there's a lot of information out there, and it's easy to find terms like, and definitions for wealth and financial freedom, whatever, that contradict each other, right? That sometimes don't quite line up with each other. However, as you take a closer look, it may not be that the information contradicts each other, but rather that it's that we need to dive deeper and find the right context of information and have the wisdom to know when to apply it. The phrase, "there's a time and place for everything," comes to mind, release the sentiment that applying the right thing at the right time matters, or the thing at the right time, rather. But we need to know the signs, right? We need to know the signals to pay attention to so that we know what to look for, so that we know and can identify, what looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, and what to do with that duck of a feeling or emotion, etc., and how to handle it. Basically, what are the signs of feeling crappy and fatigued, and what can we do to catch it early on? Because if you're feeling all the effects, like many of them, then it's probably too late. So let's talk about this. Common stress, burnout. Here's an analogy that's always helped me, and I want to paint this picture for you to further illustrate the difference between these. Now, you can think about stress as a fire alarm. It goes off when you sense danger, as an example, like a deadline approaching, right? And it motivates you to take action and get things done, to take action, right? Burnout is like a fire alarm burning out of control. The alarm has been blaring for far too long, and you're simply out of fuel. You feel helpless, exhausted, and unable to function normally. And these are the two differences. That a fire alarm going off once or twice or a couple times, is the stress, but the burnout is when it's all the time, to the point where you've got to, behavioral, physical, mental, emotional impacts as well. Of course, as we know, put it in context, that stress can be a great thing because if it's something out of our comfort zone, that helps us to grow too. But that's not just what we're talking about. If you're stressed all the time and in that state, obviously that is not a good thing, because this is why I'm talking about these different types of days as an example. So the effects of this. We know these effects. If we're in tech, none of these should be a surprise, but just painting the picture, things that we don't want, right? From the physical aspect, we're talking chronic fatigue and exhaustion, even after adequate sleep, it's just not feeling like you're rested. Headaches, muscle aches, digestive issues, as an example, changes in appetite, sleep patterns. That has definitely been true for me. Weakened immune system, even. Right. From an emotional aspect, increased irritability, negativity, cynicism, loss of motivation, feeling detached, simple loss of confidence, even self-esteem, lots of questioning yourself. It's not a fun place. Behavioral, we're talking things like procrastination, difficulty meeting deadlines because you can't really focus as much, social withdrawal, etc. Even on the work habits, working longer hours, but not getting as much done, thinking, okay, if I just spend more time here, I will get it. But the cognitive aspect is, and the impact is just not really helping you out. I can definitely say, working in tech, I have felt burnt out a number of times. Each time I caught it a little bit earlier and did a little bit better with recovery. And nowadays, I have adopted different strategies. And this is why I'm proposing the strategy with these different types today. We want to look at data. I found data as well from a 2023 IT salary report from Robert Half, that reinforces these kinds of findings. It's talking about, the reason why we see these types of things is heavy workloads, lack of support from management, lack of resource, perform job duties, increased commuting over the past year as well. Again, talking about 2023. We're even seeing in my research doing, some for this episode and looking at, well, we know these effects anecdotally, but what are we seeing out there? What am I seeing out there on our research? I'm seeing that there's entire companies that are having things like burnout indexes for individuals and teams, covering things like mindfulness, remote work skills, mental resilience, work-life impact, procrastination index, person culture, org fit, cross-culture leadership, and others. So these are the bad things, right? And some of the reasons we get there, as I mentioned from that quick survey, and all of these very real physical, mental, emotional behavior aspects. And so, the point is that fatigue and stress unattended to leads to that burnout. It could be much worse in the form of health, not achieving what you want, relationships, and other metrics as well. So when we think about a category of wealth, and this is real estate, right? Podcast, we talk a little bit of lifestyle, entrepreneurship, etc. We'll also have to take into consideration, what do we define and what do we qualify wealth is. And first and foremost, I would definitely say wealth is our health too. It's an abundance in having that so that we have the energy to do everything else that we want to do. And so facing the realities, I'm not trying to be all doom and gloom here, but the reality of the situation is that we need to work hard, play hard, and rest well, and to use our time wisely. The only unreplenishable resource is the time that we have. Okay, so enough of all that. It's not really fun to talk about, like I said, but I think it's necessary to think about that. If we look across our life, anything we might be doing right now, and extend that 1 year, 5 years, and 10 years, and ask, if I continue to do it this way, how will it affect my life and those around me? And that's why I wanted to introduce just really this one tool, and there's many, or three, but I'll chunk them into one here, is free days, buffer days, and focus days. Now, free days, focus days, and buffer days. What are these? Let's break these down. We can have a look at what they are to get a feel for them. So free days, first things first. These free days are where you are totally free. That means you don't go into the office, you don't talk to your team, you don't check your work email, you don't do work-related phone calls, and you don't meet with clients. In short, you don't even think about work. Buffer days are where you handle all the administrative work that needs to be done to keep your your role, your side gigs, or rest of your business running smoothly to make sure your free days are totally free and your focus days are totally focused. Now, that was the key point. These buffer days, right, or where you do things to help make sure your free days are free and your focus days are focused. And these places are a great way to get back into the swing of things when you're coming off of a free day as well. Focus days are the days when you do the most important activities in your business, the ones that utilize your what we call the unique ability, where it's if you were to just focus on the things that you're good at and the things that you love to do, that's what Dan Sullivan and team call the unique ability. And it's a thing where you provide the most impact as well, where they like to say is where you make your money. But here we can say the most impact and the greatest results that you get. And you probably heard 20% of your activities generate 80% of your results. And this is the same thing here. And this is the focus of these focus days, the purpose of these focus days. I'm using the same word to be defining the thing. But generally, structure your schedule in a way where you can just transition from free day to buffer day to focus day. We'll talk a little bit more about these here shortly. So where have I been using these? You're thinking, okay, sounds great, Stephen, but how have you been using these? What results have you got, etc.? Well, I have to say that I've come to pay better attention to my own energy levels. It has certainly taken some effort and some time because, like I said, I have burnt out a couple times in tech already. I mean, embarrassing to say, but I'll say it this way: talking about like gaining like 20, 30 pounds, right? And getting out of certain situations, or over medicating the wrong way, like decompressing with others, I'll say, to maybe drink a little bit too much wine or go out with people or whatever, and then coffee in the morning and get stuff done, right? A little bit of both. And it was it's a very tough pendulum to go back and forth on that. And so in this case, it was difficult to get to see yourself that way and realize that you need to make change, that I need to make change. But I did. And like I said, it's all about having strategies and tools and having some leading indicators, right? And trailing indicators to look at of what are some of the signs I'm this way, what are the effects that it's having, and keeping an eye on those. I'd noticed that those things I talked about earlier were certainly there, feeling a little more irritable, thinking, when I'm at, work, what do I need to be doing other places when I'm doing other things with people? Like, am I focused on work and just not being present as much and things like that? And so, in short, like I said, I've come to be able to pay better attention to my own energy levels, including, having certain the mornings blocked off where those are just for me and things I do, making sure I'm spending the time to go and take care of my, my health in the gym or eating much better, making sure, really pay attention to hydration, all that kind of stuff. Right. And so this is where these things come into play for me, similar on days I have focused days, do the most, make the most progress on getting projects done, personal, professional, doesn't matter. And doing things like putting things on do not disturb, other, things will not fall apart in 2 to 3 or 4 hours, as an example, if I don't attend to them right away. And so thinking about what I can do ahead of time so that I can have that time was a real game changer, right? Seems silly and maybe they're small things, but that's what it's all about, and so making that block time, knowing when I have the best amount of energy to just work and keep my energy levels high when I like to do things has been an absolute game changer for me. And this is how I've been using these times as well, right? I've had end of each quarter now, as an example. Doesn't matter if you're your own tech professional running your yourself employed, or you're doing this in a company as well. We have time off. We have to use that time off. I know again, traditionally myself and some of the colleagues I know have been absolutely terrible at taking time off, but it's really important to do that and to have some of the unstructured time where you have that time off, or to go and have those buffer days where you're focusing on doing more of that admin work as well, or finding ways where you can improve getting leverage on other things that need to be accomplished. So maybe it's not you, but others are doing them, right? And so I have implemented these days around the different quarters, admin buffer days around Fridays or so, and taken more time off, maybe, I know it sounds crazy, but probably an entire Sunday or maybe even a whole weekend off where I'm not focused on work stuff, but I'm just having that time to do things that don't have anything to do with work, whether that's personal or professional projects. And so it's helped a lot with my energy levels. And even if I can't do the entire day, I'll do a half a day or something like that. And everything else can wait. There are certain, if people need to get a hold of me, cool. Do these particular things. My phones will be on do not disturb and things like that. And if you need to get in touch with me, call twice or, whatever types of stuff for important people. But otherwise, those are just how I need to set up systems in my life because, you need to take care of you first. So anyway, so how can you use these? We'll get into this. Again, we're talking free days, buffer days, and focus days. I'm always a fan of looking how, strategy, and whenever looking a new strategy, what is the smallest and first step that I can take to, with as little energy as possible to get some results. Everything starts small, gets momentum to get results. And here with these types of days, this is no different. So if you were to look at your next year, quarter, even next month, where would you want to get a day off or two? You could look at your calendar and think about this strategically. So from a free days perspective, where aren't you thinking about work or all the other things that have to get done, right? That's something you can ask. So with the free days, where would be good for you to actually take some of that time off, right? You can ask yourself, okay, what are all the things that are likely to come up and distract me from having that day, a free day all to myself? List those things all to yourself, as an example. List all those things out and what you could do ahead of time to mitigate or completely remove those things completely. Then schedule it and communicate it that you will have that time off, and communicate it to the people, your whoever you work for is one thing, but also the important people of your life, even better if it's, for yourself or with a significant other or whatever, but communicate, hey, this is what I'm up to. These are all the things that are taken care of, come up with, or that might come up, and how they're going to get taken care of. This is completely custom to you, but these you have to take inventory of yourself, right? And I want to mention here, it's important that, the very act of going through this process and planning is going to show you how much control that you have around you. And doing this once or twice, getting to repeat those same strategies of figuring things out ahead of time is one of the many forms of leverage, right? Similar to why routine is important, but I'll save that for another time, right? Figuring something out once and just copy pasting that every single time around, right? And let's say that you get, in this example, well, you're working this out for a free day. Let's say you only get 4 to 6 hours, 4 to 6, I will say, for yourself before getting interrupted. Is that still a win? Yeah, you bet it is. Compared to always having another distraction coming up, you still got ahead of things 4 to 6 hours. Does it mean every single circumstance, it could be the roll of dice, something happens that day, I get it, but you at least went through, and thinking through what could happen and, mitigate some of those things. Now, then work to keep increasing your free time. Of course, I hope we're spending the time on something that you enjoy doing, whatever it is. Personally, I think of something like a new skill or something that helps me grow in another way. I like to take these at the end of the quarter, for a couple days off at the end of a week or so. If I've been working like 5-6 days, I'll take the entire day off, like a Sunday or Saturday, like I said, and to be present doing something else, being present doing something else. The presence is incredibly important because it's what we focus on matters the most. What's wrong is always available, is what Tony Robbins would say, right? But so is what's right. Okay, buffer days. So buffer days, remember, these are the days where you handle all the administrative work that needs to be done, keep your business or your job, your role running smoothly, and make sure that your free days are totally free and your focus days are focused. So these are a great way to come off of that free day or, heading into that focus day. You get things all off the table so that you can just focus on having your time or focus on getting work done. Now, I look at these as when I'm a little less engaged with my attention. They're kind of the middle ground between the two other days, like I was saying. These are days when I do things like batch admin work, like catching up on creating playbooks, vetting out tasks to my virtual assistant, writing up status, doing one-off tasks that are a little hard, to make recurring because I might be a little more ad hoc, doing some thinking of how I can think through a process once and then have it go to automatic. A little bit of oversight, just have notifications if it's been done or not done, as an example. And I'll use buffer days near the end of the week when I've had some focus days earlier in the week or earlier in the day where I was a lot more engaged. And here, at the end of the week, my energy levels are a little lower after being engaged so much, but I still know that I can get through these types of lower energy thinking, states or other skills that I have much greater experience in. I can do a bit more unconsciously, as an example, because I have so much more competence in that area. I can still get pretty good results by going through the motions and taking care of them and that they get done. So consider how you could do this too. If you were to bucket tasks or projects that you have, maybe you'd think, you'd find some that take more focus than others. Maybe you could do some while listening to your favorite music or while something else that just a little bit more, I don't want to say multitasking, but it takes just a little bit less energy. And then others that you need to focus on a lot more. And it's good to have silence because you need to really, look at what you're doing and it's a bit more critical versus, I want to say, multitasking as an example. So can you think of certain times in a week where this type of buffer day, this type of buffer work, administrative work might be best for you? If not the day, what about every Thursday afternoon for 3 to 4 hours on a recurring basis? What about Sunday morning after planning your week for a few hours? Right? Just some ideas. It's completely based on your schedule. Consider when this type of work would be best. Okay, so the last one is the focus days. Again, these are the ones designed where it's the most important activities in your business, your role, your life, whatever it is. It's where the 20% of your efforts get you 80% of results, right? These are my actual favorite because I love to see progress, right? And these are where I move the needle on results. It's not to say that on free days I don't recharge so that I can come into focus days better. That is also true, but I love to see things move forward in a tangible way. Now, when you think about, days of the week where you are working, where can you be the most focused and, put all of your notifications on do not disturb, right? Everything around you do not disturb and just focus on getting things done. This can be planning strategy, building work. This can be doing some of the work. This can be delegating the work too, if that's part of the 20%. Whatever it is, this time is dedicated to things that will move your most important work forward towards your goals. For me, the focus days is to write podcast episodes, reach out to investors, learn about a new tech topic I need to get better at, write documents to share ideas, being intentional about reaching out to others to build relationships. Whatever the 20% of the categories of life that I have is what's important. So with you on these, list out what those important projects and things are, right? If you have SMART goals, or if you've listened to the last episode that I did where we talked about outcomes and key results, this is a great opportunity to list out some of those main outcomes that you want for 2024 as an example, right? So you'd have maybe the Mondays and Mondays blocked off to hit the week to make progress and set things up for the rest of the week. You'd have the first 3-4 hours of each day blocked off so that you would have the time where you're doing just focus day work as an example. And that will really help you to move the needle in those. And maybe it's at the end of the quarter, that's or again on Fridays, that's where you kind of do a bit more of that buffer work for your weekend, or maybe you even do it where every so often you take Friday as a day off as well, and you make Thursday your buffer day. Whatever that looks like, again, just start small. So That is really it for today. It's short and sweet in content, but just a quick recap is that we talked about signs of stress versus burnout, why it's important that we maintain our health as part of thinking about defining wealth, freedom, right? And as well from doing what we want when we want aspects. And we take inventory and we continue, to look at our behaviors and ask ourselves, for if I keep this up for 1 year, 3 years, 5 years or longer, how will those behaviors and affect us ourselves, affect you yourself and those around you? I introduced you to focus days, buffer days, and the off days, the free days, and what these meant. Give me some examples about how I've been using these. And then finally, we talked through some ideas that you could do to use these and to be flexible with these. Of course, knowing that improvement takes time and practice. You don't have to be perfect. 1% each time will compound, and just treat it all as practice. Also, I want to mention that these ideas aren't simply my own, right? We look around us and take and adopt tools that work for us. So if you enjoy this type of content, I will put some links in descriptions so that you can read a bit more on it. It does come from Dan Sullivan, the entrepreneurial coach. I know it often helps to see things along with hearing it from me here. So you can go have a look at these resources. Dan has a lot of great resources focused toward entrepreneurs. And even though that's true, it's focused on that persona, I notice that it's about owning your life and the results as well. And so, regardless if you have a business or not, there's a lot of great ideas that you can absorb and apply. And so, I'd also argue that each of us are a business. We all have our own brand, and we're all producers, and hopefully that we're, developing and building more than we spend. Otherwise we would be in debt. That's literally the point of this, right? But anyway, bringing you to the action today. We're all different, and maybe your situation is, unique for yourself. Of course it is. I don't think it's impossible that we are able to implement some of these things, right? It is about owning your space. So I want to give you a few options today based on your unique schedule and life. And the first one is, if you're listening to this and you're feeling a bit overwhelmed with, man, Steven, this is a lot to take in. What I want you to do is I want you to pick one of these types of days. I want to practice with that first. So you're going to decide what type of day that is. Is that a free day, a buffer day? Is that a focus day? What will you do on these days? How will you prevent distractions or maintain being on track for that type of day? If you're someone that's saying that, hey, you're already doing some of these and you already have blocked off days for focus and are doing pretty good with the buffer days, where can you tighten up? Score yourself 1 through 10. Think about how you're doing on staying and being focused and sticking to that block of time that you have scheduled. Or maybe you simply aren't good at recharging, taking free days. I've been guilty of this. I still am to some degree. This is where I am practicing. I'm working on my 1% every time. And maybe you need to take more days off to recharge instead of being on all the day, all the time. How about finally, for my overachievers, listen, I see you. My challenge for you is to look at your entire year. What projects do you have, throughout the year? What projects do you want to achieve from a professional and a personal perspective as well? And based on your capacity of work, things you want to do, and leverage activities where you have your focus days, when will you celebrate accomplishments with those free days or buffer days, right? I'm not just talking about major holidays either, about the holidays like we're in right now when most people are off and it's a great time to celebrate and get to see them. I'm talking about throughout the entire year. Now, do you have, end of quarter buffer time for lessons learned and reflection, and maybe measuring the things you did and, you wanted to achieve per quarter, right? Followed by free days to relax, after that sprint of work. So just tune from there. This is constant improvement. The more you measure, the more that you are having a look at what you're doing, the better you're going to be as long as you're reflecting. So the reasons by now should be looking like they're starting to be pretty fairly obvious. We want to keep our energy levels high and perform well in the areas of life that are important to us. It's how we show up, and our energy there as well. It's not just show up and look half dead and, feel like crap, right? We want to improve our quality of life, be healthier, be more productive, have better relationships, have better experiences, and remember them too. Why else should we do this at all, after all? So the next time you're looking at your week, your month, quarter, or year, depending where you're at, you can think about the work that you need to do, and if that needs to be a focus day, a buffer day, or free day, and how those are ordered, as an example. Reduce being oversubscribed and have your unplanned downtime, because you just don't feel like doing some work. That would be your unplanned downtime. Instead, get to know yourself a bit more and think about, when you can plan the different types of work using these types of day. Your life will match your expectations better too, and you might even be happier, more productive, and show up better for others. Maybe even work less as well if you think ahead and you come up with strategies to get things done, and you maybe even automate things too. So with that, we've got the quote of the day, and the quote of the day is also another favorite one of mine. And this is: a healthy man wants 1,000 things. A sick man only wants one. And this is by Confucius, the Chinese philosopher. A healthy man wants 1,000 things, and the sick man wants only one. He wants to be healthy. So health is wealth. Take a look at our time and our energy levels to quality of life. So wrapping up, on an upcoming episode, I'll be looking at and talking to you about how to improve your skills as a general investor. More specifically, the skills, the principles of how to be a better investor in general. And I'm not talking strictly about real estate as an investment here, as I said, but certainly applies there too. I'm talking about the velocity of money. How making smart decisions with your investments will keep your hard-earned capital and energy at play. Capital and money is just stored energy, after all. Not to be philosophical here, but I'm making a point. And so if you want to know how to compound your returns faster, you'll want to tune in there. So if this helped you, please share it and let me know what you enjoyed most. You can reach out to me on Instagram at the.real.arita or email me at steven@aritacapital.com. Also, as usual, and I say this every time, if you have topics that you would love to hear about, please let me know. I will take a look at your question and I would love to answer it, make an episode, and I will even share it back to you as well personally. Even give it credit to you if you want to for that question. So thanks for joining me on another episode of Path to Passive. This is the last episode of this year, 2023. Hope you're enjoying the time with your friends, family, whatever you're doing that brings joy to your life. And let's rock on for next year in 2024. I will see you next time. Cheers. Thanks for joining us on another episode of Path to Passive. We love connecting with our listeners and those on the path to architecting their wealth and improving their lives. Feel free to let us know what topics you'd like to see in future episodes. Get in touch with us through email or Instagram. See you next week for a new episode.